The ending of Attack on Titan presents us with one of the most difficult moral dilemmas in media, and at its center is Eren Yeager, a character forced to make an impossible choice. The story builds up to the point where Eren is left to gamble with the fate of Paradis, knowing that the world beyond its borders despises and fears them. With his people facing extinction and his time running out due to the curse of the founding Titan, Eren's only option seemed to be to act decisively and kill off the rest of the world beyond the borders. But the question is, was the decision he made truly the best one? Today, we'll dive into the weight of Eren's choices and explore whether there were any alternatives, potentially more humane paths, that he could have taken to secure the future of Paradis. But before we begin, please make sure to like, subscribe if you enjoyed this breakdown, and let me know your thoughts about his actions in the comments below. The first thing anyone thinks of when finding a solution for Paradis' situation is to think diplomacy could be a viable path. After all, if Paradis' main goal was to be left alone, initiating peaceful negotiations with the outside world could have been a viable way to ensure their safety. But as my dad says, defecate in one hand and wish in another, and see which one fills first. So let's dig into why this option is far more complicated than it might initially seem. Firstly, there's the issue of deep-seated prejudice. The rest of the world harbors a profound fear and hatred of Eldians, going so far as to call them the devils. This isn't a minor grudge. It's a deeply ingrained part of the world's view of Paradis and its people. The idea of overcoming centuries of animosity and convincing these nations to engage in peace talks is almost a pipe dream. The bias against Paradis was so severe that simply initiating diplomacy could have been met with outright rejection or even hostility. If a solution like this was practical, then real-world conflicts could be resolved much more easily through diplomacy, but clearly we see that isn't always the case. Secondly, there's the matter of time. If peace treaties were to ever be discussed, it's likely under the fear that not doing so would become retaliation from Paradis. Eren's situation, however, was desperate. With only a few years left to live due to the curse of the founding Titan, he didn't have the luxury of time. Diplomacy requires patience, negotiation, and a lot of groundwork, none of which Eren had at his disposal. Meaningful diplomatic progress could take years, if not decades, and Eren's ticking clock made this option impractical at best. Lastly, even if Eren managed to initiate talks, there was no guarantee that these negotiations would lead to a favorable outcome. The risk of sabotage from factions opposed to peace or those with their own agendas was high. Plus, the constant threat of Titans and the potential for conflict escalation made diplomacy a dangerous gamble. In essence, while diplomacy sounds like a perfect solution on paper, the harsh reality of entrenched prejudice, limited time, and the risk of failure made it an unlikely and impractical choice for Eren. Next, let's delve into the idea of using the Titans not as a direct weapon of attack, but as a deterrent. The strategy here was to use the threat of Titan power to keep the world from launching a full-scale assault on Paradis. However, this approach has significant drawbacks. First, there's the issue of technological advancement. The world outside Paradis is much more technologically advanced, as well as rapidly developing new technologies. As these advancements continues, it's likely that weapons capable of effectively neutralizing Titans would emerge. This means that the deterrent effect of Titans could be short-lived, but as technology catches up, it would eventually render the Titans less effective or eventually useless. And this is all without considering Eren's urgent situation. He only has a few years remaining in his lifespan due to the curse. He didn't have the luxury of sitting around, living his best life, and then launching the Titans whenever a war started. Best case scenario, the deterrent would work for a short period of time until Eren passes and a full-scale invasion commences anyways. Even with all of these factors, Eren himself would not choose this plan because this plan would still confine him to the island and go against his dream of being free. This plan, not only being a time-limited plan, would also not be enacted because it goes against every fiber of Eren's being. A plan that was attempted within the series was Zeke's euthanization plan. This plan aimed to end the future of Eldians by making them unable to reproduce, effectively having all the remaining Eldian people die out due to the inability of having offsprings. This plan essentially wants to make the world right by slowly letting a group of people die off. Of course, this plan isn't an inherently violent action like Eren's plan, but it still carries its own difficult moral prospects. The fear of the people facing extinction is devastating and prematurely ends their society. This means all the Eldians, not only within Paradis, but scattered across the globe, would slowly perish, leaving an end for them all. This does extinguish the Titans, but it also extinguishes the Eldians' future and their ability for growth, hope, and all the other desired feelings and functions that the rest of the world is granted with. As negative as this plan is for the Eldians, it is a desired outcome for the rest of the world, ending the fear of Titans altogether. But of course, this is not a plan that Eren would go for, seeing as he betrayed Zeke and launched his own goal. But all these are obvious solutions or stated within the story. What if we thought outside the box? What if Paradis citizens had secretly left the island and integrated into other societies around the world? On the surface, this might seem like a plausible escape route. If the Eldians could blend into other nations, they might avoid direct conflict and live relatively normal lives, unsuspected of being Eldian. But of course, this plan is filled with major issues. First, there's the sheer scale of the operation. Paradis Island holds a significant population. Secretly relocating and integrating such a large number of people into various societies without detection would be an incredibly difficult task, if not impossible. If it were possible to move so many people out to escape, remaining undetected is another hurdle. The instant a group is sighted or information is found of this plan, then sweeps and searches would be conducted within the nations they fled to, and they would likely be found and killed. After examining all possible alternatives, it becomes clear that if we focus solely on the benefits for Paradis and the Eldians, Eren's choice to initiate the rumbling seems to be the only option that aligns with his goals and outlook for freedom. From Eren's perspective, the rumbling was the best choice. It ensured the long-term survival of Paradis by eliminating the external threats that loomed over them. It also allowed his friends to be seen as heroes who stopped the rumbling, thus giving them a noble role in the story. Additionally, it effectively ended the Titan threat, which had been a persistent danger. Most importantly, it aligned with Eren's deep desire for freedom. So, in terms of achieving his goals, the rumbling appeared to be Eren's best choice. It provided a solution that aligned with his dream and secured the future of his people. However, when we shift our perspective to the rest of the world, the consequences of Eren's decisions become starkly apparent. The rumbling resulted in catastrophic destruction and immense loss of life. From this standpoint, Eren's choice was disastrous and could be seen as overly extreme and unjustified. For characters like Armin, Mikasa, and the rest of Eren's friends, as well as the fans of the show, the situation is far more complex. They see the suffering of Eldians and the oppression they faced, but they also recognize the horrific nature of Eren's actions. His drastic measures, though driven by a desire for freedom and protection, resulted in a severe retaliation that cannot be easily justified. Attack on Titan showcases that depending on your perspective, things might seem black and white, yet when you step back and consider the entire picture, the morality of the world reveals itself to be much more gray. This complexity is what makes Eren's choice so divisive and why reactions to his actions are deeply varied among fans, as it is entirely dependent on which side they are viewing. Understanding both sides of the argument highlights the intricate and often ambiguous nature of morality within the world, and because of this very nature of reality, as well as the circumstances of the situation, there is unfortunately no best answer we can come up with for Eren to have conducted, as all actions which could be done are considered the best from different points of view. But that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe, as that would mean a lot to me, and comment below what you thought of my assessment, as I'd love to hear it. With all that out the way, I hope you all have a great day, and peace out.